All right, people. So several things have come up in the course of my kind of reviewing the projects that I was able to get to today, and so I want to make sure that we clarify a few things. If you guys could please all get your drawing, your base drawing, okay, and have it here, because I want you guys to understand. There's a grayish index line that comes across the bottom of your site. That's 1,300 feet above sea level. Okay? The contour interval is 4 feet, which makes the next index line 320 feet, and the next one 340, going all the way to the top. Okay? So the highest index line that we have on here is 1460. All right? So one of the things that's extremely important for me to understanding what you're doing is that you guys have to have your plan, right? Your little floor plan. You have to know what the elevation above sea level is for every single level inside your plan. And you have to be able to tell me what it is. You have to be able to say, okay, this area here is at 1464, and this area here is at 1462, and this area here is at 1466 or 1468. So I need to know the finished floor elevation of every one of your different levels inside your floors correlated to these numbers. Is that clear? Yeah? Okay, so that's one thing. Another thing that's repeatedly come up is that a lot of people seem to have compartmentalized the different phases that we've gone through in this project, and they're not synthesizing them, they're not bringing them together. For example, we watched a video that showed at Nagar Vineyards how the people harvested the grapes, and they came down the ends of the rows and they were loaded onto trucks, and then the trucks were driven to this open flat area. What was that open flat area called? It's a crush pad. Okay, so the crush pad is not an indoor room. The crush pad is an outdoor room. It can be covered or it can be uncovered. But it's outside. Vehicles and forklifts and stuff have to be able to get to it. Okay, so then the process again was, it went through the destemmer, it went through the crusher, right? And then what happened to it? Nobody remembers what the next step was?
Fermentation.
Yeah, it went from there to the fermentation tanks, right? And it sat in the fermentation tanks for, I don't know, a certain period of time. Then it came out and it went into those bins where it was clarified. And then it went into the casks. That's a linear sequence of events, isn't it? Harvest, truck drives to crush pad, stuff gets processed, it goes from there to the fermentation room, and then it goes from the fermentation room right into the casks or the barrels. So a lot of you guys are not using that logical sequence in how you locate your rooms. For example, I've had people that have put their crush pad at one end and their fermentation room at the opposite end of the building. Wouldn't you think that if your crush pad's here that you would put the fermentation area next to it? And the very last stage in the making of wine is the aging. That would be the barrel room, which is the furthest back. And incidentally, that's the one that's typically sort of buried into the ground. But many people are not doing that. They're kind of arranging the program in a way that doesn't make logical sense from a winemaker's perspective. Another really common sort of issue that I'm seeing is that there doesn't seem to be a realization that the offices and locker rooms are the private part of the business area, and the tasting room, the wine storage area for tasting, the tasting patio, and the cleaning area, right, are all the sort of front face of the winery. And so in several schemes so far, I've seen people that they arrive at the entry court, which incidentally, entry court, the translation of court means courtyard, which means outdoors. So there's also been confusion about that. So your entry court is an outdoor area, right? It's kind of a formal kind of garden area of sorts, or patio or courtyard. You can, if you want to have a lobby, you can have a lobby, even though I don't know that it's referred to in the program, but I'll allow that. But it's really important that you guys kind of understand that entry court and that lobby area needs to be directly adjacent to the most public functions here. The most public functions are the wine tasting, right, followed by the restaurant. Another area of confusion seems to be in like where you would put stuff. When people go to wineries, they're going to taste wine. They're going to potentially buy wine. If there's a special event, like a dinner or something, that usually it plays second fiddle to the main thing, which is the wine. So kind of remember that you know, your restaurant, if you're going to have something that's a way further, that's not as easy to get to in the two public functions, it's more likely going to be the restaurant. You do not want to walk through your restaurant to get to the winery. You should come to the entry court. The next thing you should come to from the entry court is either the tasting room or a lobby, and then the tasting room. One or the other. So you need to learn to keep the flows, right, of the different types of people where they should be. I'm sorry, did you have a question?
So it's like it wouldn't be acceptable to have the restaurant and the tasting room in one big room?
If there was a common area between the two, and that's where you access that big room, then the restaurant could be to one side and the tasting area could be to the other. You do need to be careful that the noise of one doesn't affect the other, and vice versa. Okay? Locker rooms. The locker rooms are typically, most of you went through gym class, right? So locker rooms contain lockers and benches where you might change. But in a corporate locker room, right, there's also going to be showers and toilets and sinks, but there's probably also going to be like a lounge area. So the reason that the locker rooms are substantially large is because it breaks down into something where the employees might go and put on their uniforms or change their clothes. Maybe they've had a long day, they take a shower. But there's also like a lunch area there for them. There's an area where if they want to have a meeting, they can sort of meet. Okay? It seems that a lot of people have forgotten that the crush pad definitely needs not just truck access, but these are big trucks. The last thing you want to do is take a big truck and drive it down this little winding path to the crush pad and then have to make it back up that slope. So, logical, functional side of things, you got to make sure that you kind of are dealing with that. Let me see if there's other notes that I made.
The crush pad is part of the wine production?
Mm-hmm.
So that goes in there.
Just to make you guys have a mental picture of what the crush pad was at one of the wineries we went to, do you remember where that guy was driving the forklift?
Yeah.
That's the crush pad. That outdoor area is the crush pad. Do you remember there was a bunch of machinery equipment that were under a covered porch?
Remember the gantry was there?
Yeah, there was a gantry there, yeah. But there was a covered porch and there were some machines under it. That's the mechanical yard. Okay? See what else. All right, so I want to stop that